Today we are starting the actual process of designing our little shed that we plan to be building out behind in the work area. And to build the shed, we must know how to actually build it. So starting today, we are starting in on designing the shed prior to us building it so we know specifically what it's going to look like when we go to build this thing. Now, what I'm going to demonstrate today is I'm going to demonstrate how to make this shed from the ground up. Today we're starting with foundations and we're working with the flooring and the floor joists. Knowing that, we have to be able to access our original program from Sketchup. So to access Sketchup, in case you forgot, we're going to go to app.sketchup.com. Once this starts loading, a couple items I want to mention. During the loading screen here, you may be prompted for a login. If you're prompted for a login, use your school login to log you into Sketchup. Don't try to use anything else. Make sure you use your school login. It takes you to the main screen here. You can just start modeling with this, but it's handy to go up to the Create New because that way, once you click this, it allows you to select what unit you plan to build with. And since we're building in feet and inches, we want to select feet and inches. Now, what I'm going to demonstrate with you guys here is I'm going to demonstrate how to make this thing. But what I want you to do is I want you working along with me. I want you actually proceeding through and making the shed as I build it with you guys. All right. Now, knowing that, you're probably gonna have to pause the video here and there to catch up, but you need to be able to make this thing as I build it. All right. So we're gonna start in with our basic user interface here that we've seen before. We have a little lady and we have my screen on the corner. I'm gonna end up moving my screen actually up here out of the way so it's easier for you guys to see. And the first thing I'm gonna start doing is I'm gonna delete this lady because we don't need her. To delete it, we can delete it in one of two ways. We can either click on them and then hit delete on the keyboard, or we can right click and we can go to erase, and that gets rid of her. Now with a blank slate, we can come in and we can start drawing in the base of our shed. Now we want to build an 8x12 shed. So I'm going to start by drawing in an 8x12 size rectangle. So I'm going to do 8 feet. So if you notice down here in the bottom corner, this actually lists our dimensions in this bottom corner here. So I'm going to get about where I want it to be. So we're going to go about, there we go, about there. So we're going to go 8 feet, comma, 12 feet, enter, and that gives us our base size rectangle. Now, looking at this, this is great if the exact floor of our shed is going to be even with the ground level. But we know that we have to build a foundation for our shed prior to building it on the ground level. Okay, so in order to actually build our shed so we can build the bottom of our shed on the ground level, we have to create a foundation. What I'm going to show you guys is how to create a foundation. So the foundation that we're using for this thing is not actually going to be an 8x12 foundation. So I kind of tricked you guys a little bit there. The foundation actually needs to be slightly larger than 8x12. In fact, our foundation is actually going to be 9x13. And I'm going to show you why here in a second. So I'm going to get rid of our square and I'm going to come in here, sorry, our rectangle. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to draw in my rectangle using, come on, there we go. My rectangle like this. I'm going to get rid of my lady here in a second. And now I'm going to go 9 feet, comma, 13 feet. All right. Now, one more thing I can do to get rid of my lady, I can click on her and I hit delete button on the keyboard and that gets rid of the lady. Now we want to finish drawing in the footing for our foundation. To draw in the footing for our foundation, we actually want to offset this interior, this rectangle that you see in front of us. To offset it, you're going to go over here to the push-pull button and you're going to go down here to the offset button. You're going to click offset and you're going to come to the edge here and you're going to drag in, and while you're holding it, you're going to type in 2 feet on the keyboard, and that creates our footing, which is now 2 feet wide. We do want to have a thickness to this thing, so we want to go back over here to our offset button, go back to push pull, rotate this thing around, go to the bottom, and we want to drag this thing down 1 foot, 12 inches, so that way we have an actual footing here. We still have the square in the middle, so we want to get rid of that square. We're going to click on the mouse button over here. We're going to click on the square, right click on it and go to erase, and that gets rid of our square there in the middle. Now we have our footing, but we actually want to draw our stem wall on top of our footing now. To draw our stem wall, once again, we want to use the offset command. So we're going to go to the offset command, which is right here over on the side, and we're going to drag inward 6 inches. Okay, but the problem is we're not quite done making the base of our stem wall. So once again, we're going to drag this one in 1 foot. And now we have the outside for our stem wall, which means we can actually drag our stem wall up using the push-pull command 1 foot. Now we have our stem wall. So our footing on the bottom, and we have our stem wall here. If you look at our origin though, our stem wall is higher than our ground level. We want to be able to drop our stem wall down so it's the same height as our ground level. To do that, I'm going to highlight the whole item. So I'm going to click the mouse button. I'm going to highlight the whole thing. I'm then going to move to the move command, and I'm going to click this corner here, and I'm going to drag this straight down 1 foot. Now that I've dropped this 1 foot, I'll hit escape a couple times to deselect it. Now it drops down 1 foot. We can see here that our foundation is now below grade level, and now we can actually start framing in our floor to make it where we want it to be. But knowing that we have a foundation here, we need to be able to access in this foundation, because when we build this building, we want to be able to have access to our crawl space underneath here. To have access to our crawl space, what we're going to do is we're going to draw in a rectangle on the side here about 2 feet wide. So I'm going to find my midpoint right there. I'm going to come over 1 foot, and then I'm going to find the end of it there, and then come down. I'm going to come back to my endpoint here. I'm going to come back over 1 foot, find my endpoint, and then come down again. And now I can use my push-pull command to push-pull this through to go even on the face there. Now I can select my mouse cursor and click that, hit delete, and now we have a crawl space. And now we have access to get into our crawl space. So we know that our foundation in the situation will be made out of cement. We want to make this foundation actually look like cement. To do that, we're going to click the paint bucket here, and we're going to go to paint. Over here, this pops up. Let's just pick something gray like that, because we know gray is pretty universal. So that is pretty much going to look like cement. And my computer's going really slow. There we go. So now we want to come in here. We will start coloring all these faces to actually look like cement. Like that. We're going to rotate this thing around. Okay. So we want to select that one, 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 and that one. So now all of our faces should look gray, so they actually look like cement, and it looks like we're good to go. Now that we have our foundation done and it looks like cement, now we can start putting in our joists for our floor frame. Knowing that we have to make our floor frame, we want to make our floor frame out of 2x6s. Our floor frame is going to consist of rim joists and joists. And I'm going to show you what those look like. So I'm going to start by drawing a 2x6 upright. Now we know from times past, I'm going to draw a 2x6. It's not actually 2 inches by 6 inches. It is in fact, let's see, 5.5 inches by 1.5 inches. Try that again, 5.5 inches, comma 1.5 inches. I hit the mouse button. Try this again. Come on. 5.5 inches, comma 1.5 inches. There we go. Now that we have our end triangle representing our end of our rim joist, we can click the push-pull command, and we can use the push-pull command to draw our rim joist in the length of our shed here. So we're going to click this, we're going to drag it down, and we're going to drag this down the rest of the way to the end here, like that. And I want to get rid of my materials thing here, so I'm going to move that back over and move my screen back over there. All right. Now that I have my end rim joist, I want to put my other end of my rim joist in. So I'm going to click rectangle once again. All right. I'm going to click this point. I'm going to start drawing upwards like that. Once again, I'm going to go to 5.5 inches, comma 1.5 inches. There we go. Now that we have that, I can use the push-pull feature once again. So I'm going to use the push-pull feature to drag this all the way down to the endpoint. Let's rotate a little bit more. Endpoint right there. Now that we have our two rim joists in, now we can start drawing in our individual joists. The first we want to draw is our end joist. So I'm going to draw my end joist in here. And I'm going to draw this thing in to be, once again, 1.5 by 5.5, or the other way around. So I'm going to draw 5.5 inches, comma 1.5 inches. There we go. Now we have our rectangle. Now I'm going to use the push-pull feature, and I'm going to push-pull this all the way down like that. Once again, I'm going to draw in my other joist at my other end. I'm going to draw this joist in down here the same way. I'm going to click my rectangle. I'm going to draw my rectangle in here. I'm going to go 5.5 inches, comma 1.5 inches. That allows me to make my rectangle. And now, once again, I can use the push-pull feature to drag this all the way down to that guy right there. Now we have a fully boxed frame, but the next step we have to do is we have to actually draw in the joists that are going to go across the middle that are going to make up the frame of our shed. To do that, we have to use what's called 16-inch on center spacing, and a lot of you probably don't know what that means. 16-inch on center refers to 16 inches to the center mark of each joist. And the reason we do that is because when we lay down the plywood, if you don't go to the center of the joist, it's not going to split the joist evenly, so it'll make nice even seams going all the way down. So I'm going to start with my endpoint here, and I'm going to measure in 16 inches. So I'm going to measure 16 inches, all right? And then I'm going to go to my 16-inch endpoint, which is right there. I'm going to come back in that direction. And then once again, I'm going to go down this direction. Let's rotate this, so there we go. Okay, and then now we can draw in our 1.5. And unfortunately, it fills that in, which we don't want to do, so I got rid of that. And I'm going to draw in the rest of this guy here. There we go. Now that I have that start of my joist, I can come in here, go back to my push-pull, and now I can drag my joist after it gets stuck there all the way across to this other side. Now we want 16 inches to the center of the joist here. However, if we come in here and we measure this thing, we can see that 16 inches is actually to the edge of our joist. If you look down at the bottom down here, you'll see 16 inches measures to the edge. We don't want to have that. So what we have to do is we have to use the push-pull feature, and we actually have to push-pull the entire joist over 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to click the push-pull feature. I'm going to move it this direction by 0.75. We go the other way, 0.75. There we go. And now when we measure this thing, we will measure 16 inches, click the measuring icon, to the center of the joist. And if you look at that, it's 1 foot 4 inches, which is 6 inches to the center of the joist, which is exactly what we want. Now that we know that, we can continue to draw in the rest of our joists. To do that, we're going to just click our draw command, and we're going to draw 16 inches in this way. So I'm going to draw 16 inches, 16 inches. Once again, it fills this in automatically, so we're going to get rid of that. I'm going to go back to my square. I'm going to find my endpoint, and I'm going to draw in my square like this. So I'm going to go 5.5, comma 1.5. There we go. And now we can use the push-pull feature, and we can literally drag this guy all the way across, all the way over, once it gets stuck again, all the way over to the endpoint here. All right, now that we've done that one, we can do the next one. So once again, I'm going to position this thing where I can get a good view on it. I'm going to use the line command. I'm going to come in here 16 inches. Once again, blanks this in. So I'm going to come in now and I'm going to draw in my joist. So I'm going to go there, straight down, there. I'm going to go 1.5 over. And then I'm going to go back up to draw in my box. I'm going to use the push-pull command. I'm going to bring that all the way across eventually to there. And then I'm going to keep working these things. Now, there is a way to actually pattern this on SketchUp, and I cannot remember the life of me how to pattern on SketchUp. So I'm going to come in here. It's not going to be any of these. I'm just going to continue working my way down one at a time. So I have a feeling that's what the majority of you guys are going to have to do is work this way down one at a time. So I'm going to draw in 16 inches. Okay, it's going to fill this in. Get rid of that. I'm going to find my endpoint here. There we go. I'm going to draw in that. So I'm going to go 5.5 inches, comma 1.5 inches. Use the push-pull feature. And one thing I want you guys to notice is that I'm making this thing. When I draw my 16-inch mark in, my 16-inch mark is from the same edge to the same corresponding edge. So if I'm picking this edge, I'm going to draw 16 inches across like that, 16 inches. Get rid of my top again. However, when I come in and draw my endpoint here, I'm not going this direction with my joist. I'm actually going this direction. And it's important you understand that, because if you go the wrong direction, then it's not going to come out correct when it's all said and done. That's not what I wanted. Let's do this again. Find my endpoint. And for some reason, it defaults to. There we go. Let's try this again. There. So I'm going to go 5.5 inches, comma 1.5 inches. There we go. Use the push-pull command once again. Get that across. All right. Now I'm going to keep drawing my next one in. So I'm going to draw 16 inches across there. 16 inches. 16 inches. There we go. It darkens in. Let's get rid of that. We're going to come in here and we're going to find the endpoint, which should be right about, come on, there's the midpoint. So our endpoint should be out here some, there we go, there's our endpoint. So we're going to go back this direction, we're going to go backwards, 5.5, comma 1.5 inches. And I'm going to reposition this. I'm going to use the push-pull command, drag this across. All right, once again, I'm going to use my pencil command. I'm going to come in this direction. I'm going to go 16 inches at a time. I'm going to darken that in. I'm going to use my square. I'm going to go this direction. I'm going to go 5.5 inches. This is also good practice for you guys, because a lot of you are not used to SketchUp and having to draw in a frame on SketchUp. Drag this across. I'm going to drag it all the way down here. Go. And if I'm lucky, I only have one more to make, and I think this is the last one. So I'm going to go 16 inches for my last one. Get rid of the top face there. Come in here, draw in my square. Go 5.5 inches, comma 1.5. Go 5.5 inches. My mouse keeps moving on me. Let's try this again. 5.5 inches, 5.5 inches, 5.5 inches. My mouse keeps moving on me. Let's try this one more time. 5.5 inches, comma 1.5 inches. There we go. All right, use the push-pull command. Now we're going to push pull this all the way across. All right, now we have our floor frame. Now in the real world, we put blocking in, and the blocking would go in between each one of these joists, but with full 4x8 sheets, we won't need to do that because a 4x8 sheet will literally cover this whole thing, but blocking is good practice to know later on. Now we have our floor frame, and our floor frame is actually even with the top of our ground level there. So now what we can do is we can come in here, we can color in our floor frame. Let's make it a pink color because it looks kind of like lumber. We're going to go there. Rotate this thing around. Work our way down. And actually what I should have done to begin with, I should have come in here at the beginning and colored the boards in from the beginning. So if I'd done that, then I wouldn't have to go through and individually color each one because this takes a lot longer to do that, but that's all right. That's the way that goes sometimes. All right, so we have our floor frame, which looks like wood now, and we got a couple more pieces right there and right there. And now we have our floor frame, and that's good. The last thing we want to do is we want to put down our subfloor. Put down our subfloor, it's very easy. Our subfloor is probably the easiest thing to do. We're literally going to draw in a sheet of plywood that's going to go all the way across. Now, we have a couple ways to do this, and I'm going to show you what I think is the easiest way, but you can do it any way you want. And the reason why I think this is the easiest way is because of the way SketchUp works. So I'm going to draw in a very long and skinny rectangle that's going to go across the top. So I'm going to draw a rectangle that's going to go like this. Okay, and I'm going to make this thing 48 inches by 0.5 inch. There we go. You have a very long, skinny rectangle, and so what I can do is I can use the push-pull feature right here, and I can use the push-pull feature to drag my plywood all the way across. And now I can make my plywood even with the edge here. Now we have a full 4x8 sheet of plywood that we can now color to look like lumber all the way around. Okay. The last steps are to draw in our last sheets of plywood. Now, to do this, we have a couple options. I'm going to show you the correct method, but there is an easier way. But I want to show you the correct way first. And the reason why is because we actually want to show the seams of our plywood. So we're going to go up this direction. So once again, we're going to go 48 inches by 0.5 inch. That gives us our thickness there. We're going to then drag that all the way across. We're going to keep dragging it to there. We're going to come back to our paint command. And the reason why I wanted to do it this way is because this is more indicative of what you would see on the job site, because we actually have a seam right here that separates our two sheets of plywood, and that's what you would actually see on the job site, is you would see an actual seam there that separates the two sheets. So I'm going to draw in my last sheet here, and hopefully I get it to go correct. Come on. There we go. I had to reorient it. 48 inches, comma, 0.5 inch. Now I can use the push-pull feature one more time. And I can push-pull my sheathing all the way across to that very edge. I'm going to come back in here and color this in to make it look like wood. Come on. And now we are done with our, we are done with our floor frame. Oh, I see why it's doing that. So this is what you'll be turning in. So what you'll be turning in today is I want everybody to turn in a screenshot showing me their floor frame as it sits right here. I want you to put a screenshot like this. I also want you guys to put a screenshot like this. So that way I can see in the joists underneath your building. Because it's one thing to actually just put a floor on top. It's another thing to actually put all the joists in as well. So I want you guys to actually fill the joists in. And you can come in here in the bottom and fill these in like I'm doing as well, or repaint these as well, so it actually matches everything. But I do want you guys to actually submit a screenshot of the underneath of the building as well, so that way I can see the frame underneath the building. So when you submit this assignment, you'll actually submit 2 screenshots. You'll submit one from the top and you'll submit one from the bottom, showing me that you actually have the joists in on both parts. And that's a real big deal because you have to be able to see the frame on both parts. Make sure that you save this because we're going to come back to it. We're going to come back to it and we're going to add the walls in later on. So I'm going to start by saving this model shed for construction. All right. I'm going to save it and that's it. It'll save it when it'll save everything when it's done. And that's it. Turn this thing in and you're all good to go. That's it for today's session. Be ready for next week's session because next week we are going to go over the walls, how to frame the walls, how to make the walls, and all that good stuff. All right, thanks, guys.